So this is Majjhima Nikaya 21, just a section of it. Suppose that a man were to come along carrying a spade and a basket, saying, "I will make this great earth be without earth." He would dig here and there, scatter the soil here and there, spit here and there, urinate here and there. I don't know why someone would do that, but be without earth, he would say, be without earth. Now what do you think? Would he make this great earth be without earth? And they say, "No, Lord." Why is that? Because this earth is immeasurable. It can't easily be made without earth. The man would reap only disappointment. And then, in the same way, there are these 5 aspects of speech by which others may address you. Timely or untimely, true or false, gentle or harsh, beneficial or unbeneficial, with a mind of friendliness or hate. And that's 5. In any event, you should train yourselves. Our minds will not be overturned, and we will say no evil words. With a mind of friendliness, without hate, we will have pity for that person. We will regard him with a friendly mind, and with that as a foundation, we will regard the whole world with a mind of friendliness that is abundant, expansive, immeasurable, free from hostility. That's how you should train. So be like that earth. So I think the question was how to be like that earth.
Is that the question?
Yeah, so like the composure should be measurable to the point where whichever way whoever addresses one,
the mind should be immeasurable.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a question of you doing the composure.
Mm-hmm.
You do the composure that then sets the mind up,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak. Makes it turn away from things, makes it immeasurable by things, but you don't have direct access to the mind. You can't just make it immeasurable.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the whole first jhana practice that we spoke before. Mind would turn away from vitaka vichara, from thinking and pondering, from movements of your thoughts, from comings and goings of your thoughts, from rising or passing away of the aggregates, by composing the context of danger, peril, lack of satisfaction, not worth my time, not worth engaging. All these myriad of aspects you can compose your mind on and then cultivate them. Make sure they endure, make sure you protect them through sense restraint and virtue, and the mind will have to turn away. The mind will have to lose the interest. And then you recognize that. And that's the skilled trainer. He notices, when I do this, this is what happens to the mind. When I do that, when I compose something else or let it do this is what happens to the mind. So, as the Buddha said in that other sutta to Rahula about the same thing, be like earth. So dwell and compose themes, contexts, values of earth, of immovable, is not affected by dirt, people, by spit, by whatever else people do with it. It just makes no difference. So by dwelling on those contexts, the mind can then become like that. So it's indirect in a sense. Now the reason why people's minds do not become like that, no matter how much, if they dwell on the context, but the minds are not becoming like that, there can only be one reason for that. Minds, they themselves are still not withdrawn from sensuality, not withdrawn from carelessness, idle kind of activities, talk, distraction that keeps the mind still connected, so to speak, keeps the mind engaged with things that are perverting the order. So the mind is not trained, it's not developed in that sense. So you can't say, but I'm doing everything rightly, I am fully withdrawn, my virtue is impeccable, I'm accomplished in virtue, accomplished in seclusion, accomplished in withdrawal from unwholesome states, and I contemplate and I compose the contexts of great earth, immovability, immeasurability, but my mind is still not turning away. That's impossible. That's impossible. It would have to. You might not do it immediately, but it will have to turn away, and then you would know it. So the whole point of the simile here is like, so make sure that your mind is already immeasurable like that earth. Make sure that that context, and that's how you would protect the context and see the danger of losing it. Like if you just think the mind is on the level of that context, that's it. What I compose, that's what it is. You will not necessarily have perspective in regard to it. So which means when you kind of have different desires or want to do something different, the mind might just go ahead with it. But if you actually wait, but this context I'm protecting now, I don't feel any danger in losing it because I'll deal with it, so to speak. Oh, if this context changes, I'll deal with it. I want it changed or so on. But that's when you ignore how it will affect the mind, for which you don't have a say. You have a say in the context and how you compose your mind and what you choose to dwell on, but you don't have a say in how the mind will act and react and respond to that. And that's then so although I can handle this context changing, and I can handle thinking about different things, I can handle this, I can handle sensuality, I can handle ill will. Yeah, that's not the point. The point is that the mind will do its own thing then, and you can't handle that. So you recognize the danger of losing the context is not whether I can handle or not new thoughts and different thoughts. The danger is, but I know what my mind will do, and that's what I need to protect. So yes, you can handle sensuality, great. And now keep handling it, keep handling yourself away from it, so that then the mind will also will lose completely interest towards it. So be like earth, be like water, be like these elements in that other sutta. That's the point. Make your mind become like that on account of diligent pondering on these contexts, properties, qualities that will make the mind go that way, pliable, obeying that direction that you're setting up. If you have been withdrawn from sensuality, distraction, idle chatter, obviously acts of ill will, and everything else pretty much. Sleep, engaging in pointless work, distracting work, and so on. Then the mind will have to turn away because you left it no choice. And then you realize, okay, so I don't need to keep my mind now like water or like water, like earth. It is so. All I need to do is not distract myself and start providing unsuitable food for that mind, and it will stay. It will stay in regard to the entire world. So then whatever people praise or blame, whichever they speak out of anger or kindness, it makes no difference. The mind remains turned away from the entire thing anyway. So yeah, there's this passion because there is no more fueling of passion through your careless acts.
So in terms of that other sutta, the Rahula, when he's instructing Rahula about be like earth, and it has that Pali word samma there. So it's like tune into earth, or balance that.
Yeah. Well, that's what composure is.
Yeah.
That's what samadhi is. It's tuning of the context rightly, attending to it rightly. And what is the measure of the tune? In light of what I just said, what would be the measure of, this is the right tune now?
Dispassion. Not being affected by what's happening, basically.
The mind not being affected.
Exactly, the mind being turned away.
Mm-hmm.
You start recognizing that. You see that by doing that samma rightly, composing it rightly, practicing samadhi rightly, i.e. establishing that context, so not on the level of abstract ideas, and certainly not on the level of physical sensation watching, but find a balance between the two, for lack of a better word, and then gotta be patient with it. And see, you try to tune a string instrument. If you're just hitting the strings and not waiting for the feedback of the sound, how do you know whether to tighten or to loosen? So the feedback here, is mind turning away from the entire image, from the entire experience, from thinking and pondering? And then, dispassion and so on, that would be the result of the mind turned away. In other words, you would have then the same thoughts. They would be inducive of passion or ill will before. Now the same thoughts are there, but there is no passion or ill will, because the mind is not there with them, so to speak. And that's that samma aspect. the tuning. So it's not that you tune the mind directly, but you tune the context appropriately, establish it, make sure it endures, protect it on the basis of virtue and guarding on the sense doors, and the mind is turning away. That's why that element of faith is necessary as well in the beginning, because you don't have an immediate feedback. And how you feel is certainly not a reliable feedback. Oh, I feel great, this must be right. Oh, I feel bad, this might be wrong. Not necessarily. Sometimes that initial turning away of the mind might feel very unpleasant, because that's what the mind was depending on, like withdrawing from the favorite food, because you don't see that it's harming you. But first you got to stop eating it, endure that desire to eat it again, and then you realize, oh, actually, yeah, look, I am getting better. I'm lighter. I'm healthier as a result of not eating, not letting mind sort of fall back and touch and take up all these other things that I used to attend to wrongly as agreeable, non-harmful, and so on.
Good. One other way of describing the mind in that way is that it's greater in that it's broader, so that even if particular hindrances arise, it's in relation to those hindrances, not pulled by them. It's able to.
Well, yeah. Theoretically speaking, that's correct. But as I said, in and of itself, somebody, if they hear the instruction that mind is greater, mind is broader, they can make whatever they want out of it. And that's why you have to be careful. And it's like, well, yes, you can use these descriptions, but you need to really know why the mind is turning away, why the mind, and it's on account of danger, understanding the gratification, danger, and the escape in regard to pretty much anything that takes mind's interest, certainly in regard to sensual desire and unwholesome states. And you can understand that if you've stopped acting towards it, if you stop distracting yourself, if you stop sort of treading water around and ignoring that there is still tasks to be done, all that thing that's before. So that is all part of that development. It's not like some random observances that are done, and then this is the direct line to my enlightenment, this technique or this way of thinking or something like that. And that's exactly why for somebody all these things would be extremely mystical and abstract, and for somebody would be like the most acute description of the experience of first jhana, or how the mind turns away from sensuality and so on. The difference being in how much they've actually developed through the body, the speech, and then on the level of the thought. So we're back to what we said before. So if you hear an instruction that's, oh wow, that sounds interesting, okay, then find out more from that person, or if they said anything else, as how you arrive at it. Yes, there is this pleasure when the mind is withdrawn, and it's magical, and it's just immeasurable mind, and it's just the absolute bliss. Okay, so how do I do it? And then if they say, well, you just sit and focus on sensations and get this pleasure, and then latch onto it and look closer and contemplate anicca, that's not really the impression you get when you read the suttas. But if they say, how do you do it? Well, keep the precepts, be fully withdrawn from unwholesome states, guard your sense doors like your life depends on it, and then dwell in seclusion up until the intentions become apparent, where the mind leans towards pleasure, leans away from pain, all these things, and then you'll have that bliss of withdrawal and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, that is, when I read the suttas, that's kind of what it says there. But everything else, 99% of work leading up to that, okay, yeah, that's covered. We all understand that, Precept, sure, guarding of the senses. This is the way to jhana. Like, no, because you left everything else out. That's not the way. And if somebody have understood the way and had the jhana, they would not be able to omit this way of getting there, because they would understand how they got there. And you can't stumble upon it accidentally. Even the Buddha himself, when he remembered the experience of jhana that he had when he was still a young, under the tree there with the father somewhere, I can't remember the story. The point is, oh, I remember that experience. He obviously knew how he got there. Let me try going that way again and see if that's the way to enlightenment. And how you get there? By complete withdrawal from unwholesome states. Mind completely turned away from unwholesome phenomena of lust, greed, desire, aversion, dissatisfaction, 5 hindrances.
Which is different to trying to get rid of.
Completely different. Yeah. See, you can't get rid of it, but you could attend to it rightly so the mind turns away from it while the thing remains.
And you're unaffected.
If you are getting rid of it, means your mind is already connected with it. It sees no other perspective in regard to it. So you just want to replace it because it's unbearable. No, you just need to attend to it rightly, literally. Yoniso manasikara, and that which hinders you ceases to be a hindrance. Why? Because the mind's turned away now. The mind is not touching it anymore. It's not involved with it anymore. And trying to get rid of it is a very strong form of involvement, aversion.
So in terms of that example you gave about withdrawing from eating certain types of food that would be unhealthy, suppose like you discover you are allergic to something that you used to find very agreeable. Like in the beginning it might be difficult to give up that thing that you have to sort of force yourself not to eat it. But once, like you said, you start to see the benefit, or see, okay, I am getting healthier, I don't have this discomfort or symptoms or whatever, you kind of understand, okay, this is what came of eating this unhealthy food, then it's no more really agreeable to contemplate eating that same food, because it comes with this implication of all of that unhealthy, all of that discomfort, all of those the symptoms of allergy or whatever. So it's like a bit similar, that the thing that used to be source of pleasure, by having been withdrawn from it long enough to see the kind of higher perspective, or get the benefit from it to an extent, now that same thing is no more kind of
no more desirable.
No more desirable, exactly. Because like, okay, it might taste good, but I don't want all that comes with it. Basically.
Yeah, taste good. It basically becomes redefined as causing illness and death and pain and everything else. So the good taste ceases to be a good taste. It's just now a harmful taste.
But it's like that. There is still a taste, a good taste.
Exactly. There is still that poisonous drink. Factual color, smell, taste, everything remains unchanged. But the knowledge of poison now can make your mind forget that, can make the mind topple over and tip over and lose that perspective.
It's like that simile the other night with the scales. So you're bringing that other perception of the danger to balance with this one. That's the good taste.
At the same time, that's the point here. Not
so the
danger, replace this. This remains. That's why I keep saying you have to endure things on the right level. It remains so that you bring the balance.
Yes,
so that you bring the danger and leave it there, counterweighing it. That's it. And it will have to go away. And that's why the mind will turn away from both. Oh, right. Thank you for bringing the danger on the scale, so I got that balance re-established. But without actually weighing it at the same time, but instead trying to get rid of it, you're literally just replacing the stuff on a scale that's already out of the balance. And that's hindrances and acting out of hindrances. Oh, put a new one, put a new thing. Completely perpetuating yourself in that turned over state. Upside down.
And the reason why this peripheral awareness that is balancing the more particular hindrances is not evoking of craving is because so you can't crave towards, I mean, for example, the fact that the body is, you find yourself in the body inescapably, or the feeling is completely out of your control. These things which are
well, because craving is always bound with that direction, with that particular. So it's always that forward, and if you establish the scales, if you start weighing the balance through the context of the peripheral in regard to what you're craving, craving would diminish while that thing remains.
Yeah.
So that's how you uproot it.
Yeah.
You don't replace it.
Yeah.